bunny fans, welcome to another episode of the Bunny Coach podcast. Today I wanted to talk to you about one of the common worries that I hear from people, which is, are my rabbits unbondable? So if people have put their rabbits together for a bonding session and it hasn't gone well, especially if the rabbits have gone into a fight straight away, a lot of people worry that that means that their rabbits aren't bondable. So first of all, let me reassure you that it isn't unusual for rabbits to go straight into a fight when you put them together. And it doesn't at all mean that they're not bondable. It just means that they're feeling territorial, that they're scared of the other rabbit, or that they want to figure out who's boss very, very quickly. And there's lots of things that you can do to prevent them fighting the next time or to reduce down the chances of them having a fight. In my experience with rabbits, it is very unusual to get an unbondable pair, and it is very unusual as well to find a rabbit that actually isn't bondable. I've actually come across very, very few rabbits in my experience with supporting over 500 bonds, both in person and online, that are actually truly unbondable. In most cases, rabbits that are like that actually really are better off without a friend and really will not accept another rabbit, it's because they have been through a lot of stress and trauma in their lives. So it might be a rabbit that has had a really negative experience around people and they don't trust people and they don't trust other animals. They may have come from, let's say, a hoarding situation and been in a small enclosure with lots of other rabbits and maybe ended up in repeated fights, maybe even been injured, or something terrible has happened to them. Like, for example, there was a lady I was helping in America and her rabbit was actually rescued from the jaws of a coyote. And we tried lots of different things. The lady was trying to bond that rabbit with 4 other bunnies because she had 5 bunnies altogether and she wanted them all together. And what happened was that the little one just didn't cope at all with being in a group or being around other rabbits at all. She was just far too terrified. So in the end, what we did was we continued to bond the other 4. And now she's a solo bun and she's living her best life because she's getting lots of attention. And with a rabbit like that, there isn't any point in creating any more stress for them and trying with lots of different rabbits when she's actually okay by herself. She didn't create a bond at all with any of the rabbits in that group, so I don't think she would have done well with any rabbit that we put her with. So generally speaking, a lot of the rabbits that people are bonding when they come to me for help are actually rescue rabbits, and they're still bondable. It's only in these kind of extreme situations where they have had something really negative happening to them that generally speaking they can't be persuaded to be friends with the rabbit that you are trying to bond them with, or be bonded to another rabbit if they're not a good match. But in most cases, I do believe that you can make it work. A lot of the time people come to me with 2 rabbits that they have adopted, that they love, that have been living in their house for a long time, they're very attached to, and they don't have the luxury of changing the rabbits up like they can in a rescue when they're trying to make a bonded pair, for example. It's a case very much of it needs to work. And in most cases, we are able to make it work with changing up the setup, the timing, the approach that we're taking to the rabbits. Bonding should very much be come at from a point of tailor-making the plan to your situation, your home, your setup, the time that you have available to bond, the rabbit's individual history, whether they've come from a rescue or a trauma situation, or whether they've always been in the one home where they've been loved and doted on, the rabbit's history together, if they've had a negative experience together in the past, for example. So all those things make a big, big difference when it comes to bonding. It's really not just a case of putting them into a pen and saying, right, do this, then do this, then do this. In some cases, yes, that absolutely will work. But I think the problem is that there's a narrative out there where this is the way to bond, and if this doesn't work, then your rabbits are not bondable.
Sometimes what can seem like 2 dominant rabbits can sometimes be a dominant rabbit and a submissive rabbit that is afraid, or both rabbits are afraid, or a submissive rabbit that's just fighting back because the dominant rabbit keeps attacking them. And if the dominant rabbit stops attacking them, then they can calm down as well and everything is okay. And usually one of the rabbits decides, even if they are dominant, usually one of them does decide that actually they'd rather have a friend than be dominant. They actually don't care that much. And I don't really think that you can say that rabbits are unbondable until you've tried lots of different things. So one of the reasons I have such a high success rate, like 98%, firstly, I'm more stubborn than the bunnies, and we know they're very stubborn. I'm determined to make it work for the people that are trusting me with them. But second of all is that I think outside the box. Sometimes you have to think outside the box to make it work rather than just going to the end of that particular method and going, okay, it didn't bond, so it doesn't work. There's lots of things that you can do and you can change and you can tweak. So what you think might be an unbondable pair often turns out to be actually very bondable. They just need the right method or setup or timing or area or something like that. Try not to let that worry you.
Because it's very unlikely that you have landed yourself with an unbondable pair that really no method of bonding will work for.
And if that is the case, then at least you can think about what's a good plan B.
And sometimes it isn't feasible to keep two rabbits and keep them separately because that's not what you signed up for and you don't have the space or the time to give them the attention that they need. And besides that, they're living solo. And sometimes it is a good idea to think about rehoming one of the rabbits so that they both have a chance to bond with another rabbit.
I know that's very difficult for those of us that love rabbits, and most of us don't take on a rabbit thinking this rabbit is disposable. This is not how we think. We think this rabbit is here for life. We love them and we want them to be happy and we take on the commitment and we're ready for that commitment. But the reality of it is that it can be very difficult to have rabbits living separately. In actual fact, it can be quite dangerous because they can be quite determined to get into each other and you're at constant risk really of them fighting. So sometimes it is better to rehome them, and that's not an easy or a nice decision, but I don't think there should be guilt attached to that if that's what happens and you get to the end of the road and discover they're not bondable. So there are other options. Sometimes your rabbit needs a different rabbit and those two just don't get on. Sometimes the second rabbit needs to be in a home where they're an only rabbit, or maybe your rabbit needs to be in a home where they're the only rabbit. And sometimes one of them needs to be rehomed where they have a chance of bonding with another bunny or a group of bunnies. So there are different options available. And if you do get to the end of the road like that, I'm very happy to talk to anybody about that if that's the case with them. I really just hate people feeling guilty about it because I know you do feel guilty about it and people can't take that away from you, but I don't think you should be made to feel guilty by external sources.
So if that sounds like you and you would like a tailor-made plan for your bunnies, or you are struggling with it, or you're planning to bond and you just want to get it right from the beginning, start by telling me what's happening with your rabbits. So I have two free options. One is you can answer some questions online for me and I'll get back to you in an email, or we can talk face to face. I do a free 15-minute call. So check the show notes underneath for the links. And once I've reviewed your situation, then I can recommend the most suitable support pathway for you. I have lots of different levels of support depending on your situation and your budget, and you can decide what feels right for you and your bunnies. But don't be struggling alone. Tailor-made plan is the best way to get you from A to B as quickly as possible and with less stress as possible, and have your bunnies enjoying their lives together quicker and have peace in your home as well. I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for listening to the Bunny Coach podcast. I look forward to chatting to you next time.